everyone, welcome back. And in this video, I'll be giving you some information on events. So, we'll be looking at what are events, why actually capture these events, how to manage events, and we'll be looking at some examples. So, if you don't know what events are, I'll be taking that, but to give you a heads up on what this is, you would have come across something as API and then you have events. You would have heard the developer saying that, oh yes, we are listening to these events, we are handling these events. So this is a heads up. So let's get to see what are these events actually. So let's get into it. So have you ever noticed how a UI reacts when you click on a particular button, you submit a form, or you mouse over on a particular icon, or you mouse over on a button, or you navigate, or you close a particular window. No matter whatever action you're performing, there is some reaction. The system is reacting to whatever action you're performing on the system. So these little bit of actions that happen inside the system, we can call it as some type of an event. Okay, so if you take the definition of an event, events are activities or some state changes that occur in an application. So for example, you have a pop-up over here, a form. Okay, when you click on this form, that is when you click on the save button over here, there's going to be some action, some change of state, some activity that is taking place in the UI, because as soon as you click on that form, there is some other page to which you're redirected to, or some other information is retrieved and displayed to you. So therefore, events are nothing but activities or state changes that occur in a application. So the activities can be considered as a form submission, a mouse over, a click, all these are said to be as activities. So why capture these events? Now you must be thinking, okay, so you're just mouse hovering on something, you're just submitting a form. Why actually capture all that? So as I said earlier, so systems and applications, they need to react to these various activities or changes that are taking place in the system. The system just cannot stay idle while you submit a form, or while you click on a particular button, or while you mouse over, or while you click on a particular tab, or while you close a window. Imagine the system not reacting to these activities. Imagine how frustrating it will be, and the user would never be able to complete or to get information that the user wants to get. So therefore, it is very essential that events are needed. So some of the examples of events. So there are various HTML events that tell us what activity the user is performing in a particular application. So there are many HTML events that are there, but here for an example, I've just listed out a few mouse events and form events. So if you see mouse events, you have click event, you have a mouse over event, etc. Similarly, for form events, you have a submit, you have change events, and there are many more. I don't want to load you with all those events, but if you have time, you can, if you're very interested, you can go and you can look at what are all the various HTML events that exist. So apart from these events, now these are all events that are related to the web. Okay, apart from these type of an events, there are various other events that happen. Have you ever got, definitely we would have all got some alert or notification. It can be either a SMS, it can be either an in-app notification, it can be an email notification, or any alert. We would have got alerts and notifications. All that is based on some activity. For example, have you ever received some notification saying that at some point of time the stocks are at a particular value and it's the right time to invest? So yes, that happens because of a particular event. So whenever, say for example, you had set it up saying that notify me when stocks are around this particular price. So when that particular condition is satisfied, there is some event that is taking place. And to how the system reacts to that event is, the system, once it gets that particular event, it knows that that event has occurred, the system needs to notify the user. So the notification is going to be another event handling. So these, whenever there is some new updates, some deletion, some creations that is done, there are also events that take place. Imagine we would have all seen microservices. I have taken a video on what are microservices. So if you don't know what a microservice is, or you want to, you know, read up more on what is a microservice, I've taken a video. You can click on the link that I've provided. So imagine these are like microservices. Okay, you have an order service, you have an account service, delivery service, and a product warehouse service. Let's say it's an online shopping or an e-commerce application. And instead of having all these services coupled together in one application, all these services have been decoupled as separate services. Okay, the microservices have their own advantages, so that's a topic for a different session. But just to give you an overview here, you have different microservices. Now all have to work hand in hand with each other. Okay, so whenever, let's say the order service, whenever there is a new order, all the other services need to be notified. So therefore the order service would send a particular event to the account service, to the delivery service, and to the product warehouse service. Because when a new order is being created, the order has to be sent out for delivery, and it's needed for the delivery service. The product warehouse, the inventory needs to be managed. It has to be, you know, accordingly, it has to be reduced, the stock value for the product. Also the accounts, the amount receivables. Okay, so all this needs to be in place. For that, the order service would send out an event saying that, hey, there's a new order over here, so please update your transaction and your records accordingly. So that's another way of events that take place in a system. It's not only related to the web and HTML and mouse overs, but these are also another type of events. So I hope I got this little clear and it's understandable. So now that we know what these events are, now how do we handle an event? Okay, so the entire process of managing or reacting to an event is called as event handling, and it is taken care by an event handler. Okay, so the process is called event handling, and the great guy over there is called the event handler that actually takes care of these events. So now in the previous slide, I showed you what are all some examples of events. So over here, if you see the mouse event, you have click and then you have mouse over. So there is this event handler called on click, and for mouse over, it's on mouse over. Similarly, for example, form events, you have submit and change. So the event handlers are on submit and on change. Okay, so these are default event handlers. And now you have the event handler. This is not all. Okay, this is not enough to handle the event. You need to add a JavaScript code, okay, to this particular event handler. And that JavaScript is the one that actually gives the instructions to the handler as to how the event needs to be handled. Okay, so now I'll give you an example over here, but just keep in mind you have an event handler, and then a JavaScript code is going to be added to that handler in order to manage that particular event. Okay, so now let's say that I have two buttons on my page, and when I click on the accept button, I need to be able to view the description saying that thank you for accepting the invite. Okay, so now here in this example, on click, on button click, okay, is going to be a event. Okay, and here we'll see how the system is going to handle this event. Okay, so now here you have a basic HTML code, and over here if you see, you have a button. Okay, and the button, there's a particular event handler here over here, which is on click. Okay, and in that particular event handler, we are adding a JavaScript, very simple document.write, and we are displaying this particular text over here, which is thank you for accepting the invite. So now this particular event handler, it's also called as a event listener, because imagine this event handler, it keeps listening to whenever a particular event occurs. So immediately when that event occurs, the event handler is going to start reacting and going to provide the necessary output to the user. So let's say the user comes on to this page, and then the user sees this text, invitation to join webinar. So now the user clicks on the accept button. So now when the accept button is clicked, there's an event that is occurring over there, and immediately the event listener, or the also called as the event handler, listens to that and starts reacting to this particular event, which is what? It's nothing but displaying this particular text. So immediately when the user clicks on this button, you get a text saying that thank you for accepting the invite. So now this is a very basics of how systems listen to events, what is an event, and how the system manages that event. There are also more complex events that occur, but for an overview and for the start, this is really good to know what an event is. And I hope that I gave you some information on what events are and some examples on that. If you found this helpful, please do give this a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do subscribe to this channel, and also do share your feedbacks. Thank you.